Good morning. Thank you, Alan. It's good to see many of you, meet many of you for the first time. I'm Nate Houghton. As Alan mentioned, I grew up in the church. I don't live here anymore, but I've been connected to OPPC for 23 years, if you can believe it. I'm the third most significant Houghton. You probably know my mother, Kathy. And if you go to the website, my younger sister is on the homepage at her wedding. She's like the stable poster child of what a wedding at OPPC is supposed to look like. But I'm also here, so it's very important to have a chance to tell you what I'm up to as well. There's a lot that I was asked to go through today, probably more than we have time for. I think that it's important first to give a little bit of a pocket history maybe of Congo for some context. Hopefully share a bit about how I ended up there, and before that, how the Presbyterians ended up there before me, and then a bit of an update on the current situation in Congo today. I do have some slides that we'll go through. I was also told that if you're watching online, the slides are here, so that should be where they are. But thank you again for all of your support and for having me here today. So I think for anyone who's not familiar, if you look at a map of Africa, DR Congo is this big chunk kind of right in the middle. It's one of the biggest countries in the middle of Congo. There are two Congos. There's a Republic of Congo and a Democratic Republic of Congo. We work in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It's hard to tell from the maps that we use, but DRC is actually about 3 times the size of Texas. It's an enormous country, very difficult to govern, and it has a history very much unlike any other that I've seen. And I thought it would be useful to tell you a little bit of that. Congo was unique in that it wasn't truly a colony of any European country. It was actually the personal fiefdom of a Belgian king named Leopold. He was the king of Belgium, a very small country. He was very embarrassed, I think, by not having a colonial empire like all of his friends. And so he created what he called the Congo Free State, which was from the 1880s through the 1910s, probably the worst example of European colonialism that existed in Africa. Around the same time, in the late 1880s, the Presbyterians sent their first missionaries to Congo, and a presence that continues today was kicked off. There was a Presbyterian missionary named William Henry Shepherd, who was in fact very important in bringing to light some of the atrocities in Congo. He was from Alabama. There is actually a presbytery in Alabama called Shepherd and Lapsley Presbytery today. So we have a very, very long history in Congo, and there are a number of Congolese Presbyterians as well. I'm also happy to report that they're a little bit more active in their singing and dancing in church service than we are. It's a bit of an experience to go over there and see them as well. Eventually, the atrocities of the Congo came to light, and Belgium took over the colony. The Presbyterian missionary presence continued. There were some good things, I think, about the missionary presence, some empowerment, some uplift. There were some bad things about the missionary presence over the course of many years as well. I like to think that we're carrying on some of the better parts of that legacy with the empowerment work that we do. So I was 18 when I first heard about Congo. I don't know what was tremendously inspiring to me, except that I had taken French for many years and was never really very good at it, and thought that I should put it to some good use. So I was put in touch via our church with a man named Jeff Boyd. Jeff was and is a missionary. He lives in Cameroon. And he told me that if I speak French, one of the really only places that's particularly useful was Congo. And so I decided to go. And I went to Kinshasa for the first time in January of 2008. And the way I was able to pay for that was Orchard Park Presbyterian Church. I coordinated the plane tickets with Mrs. B before telling my parents that I was going to go to Congo, which is how I would recommend you do this if you want to go somewhere like Congo. And so I went and I met a number of youth in Presbyterian churches, actually. At that point, I was a young man. I no longer am, Alan, but I was a young man then, and they were about the same age as me. And they were tremendously inspired to create a better future for their country, but they didn't really have any way of doing so. And so we started to put together a program, which I'm happy to tell you a little bit about, that eventually became the Congo Leadership Initiative. So take a look at what we're doing. We have 3 parts to the work that we do. The core of CLI is a training program. It's focused on leadership and empowerment, as well as entrepreneurship training. The Congo is a place where there aren't many jobs for a young person, even worse than here, I promise, if you just graduated from college. And so often you need entrepreneurial skills to be able to create a living for yourself and for your family. We train youth in these skills. We also subcontract with some very large organizations, some of them Presbyterian, some of them other Christian organizations that are doing big health education projects and are interested in bringing our empowerment work to their projects across Congo. And finally, we work with a group called Congo Hope. Congo Hope was founded by a number of people who actually were born in Congo and grew up in Congo as Americans because their parents were Presbyterian missionaries, and they continue to get together. It's a very interesting group of people who support the place where they grew up with projects like building wells, providing medicine for hospitals, building schools, etc. We like to work with them to add empowerment training for youth so that they're not always reliant on the donations of people in the US. Those are the three parts of what we do. This is a map of Congo. We are now active in 23 different locations in Congo. We started in just one. Most of these are our own training program. We also support different types of projects across the DRC. I mentioned that it's massive. It's a huge country. I think that a lot of the work that we do is much easier now than when I started, thanks to how much easier it is to stay in touch with people in Congo. So WhatsApp is a godsend. Zoom makes it much easier to connect with people in the DRC. But we have 20 active sites this year. This is the first year we will graduate more than 1,000 youth in a year from our training programs, which has really grown significantly. The way we've been able to do this is by partnering with local groups. I think it would have been too daunting for me to try to show up in all of these places on my own. Many of these groups are connected to Presbyterian churches across the DRC and other churches as well. So it's been very useful and helpful and empowering, I think, to work with local groups in the DRC. I mentioned we were founded in 2009. That's a long time ago now, a good half of my life or so. We have over 11,000 graduates at this point. We were cited last year, or potentially the year before, in a study by Oxford University about character-based leadership training. We were the only program in Congo that was actually cited in this study, and I'm very proud of the work that we've been able to do. I've noticed over the course of the last 15 years that when we began, the idea of young people in a place like Congo being what I would call development actors, or people who can create change, was a very new idea. It was something that people didn't quite get their heads around. And that's shifted quite a lot. I think now it's quite mainstream to understand that youth anywhere in the world, and particularly in places like Congo, have a great deal of energy, ideas, ability to contribute, and we're happy that we've been able to facilitate that. I get asked a lot about our program. I think in the US we would call much of the training soft skills, so how to lead a group of people, how to engage in constructive debate, how to work with those who you might disagree with, and then more tactical entrepreneurship skills. Not always for starting a business. We actually don't prescribe what our graduates should do. We have engineers in our program, we have politicians, we have lawyers, doctors. One person became a child psychologist, another is a professional soccer player. My favorite is a DJ. That's what he decided to do. So youth can do any number of different things, but we believe that having leaders in every field and in every sector is a helpful way to create the fabric of a society that can grow and thrive and prosper. I'm consistently amazed by the success of our alumni. I mentioned WhatsApp. I'm on a number of different text chains with hundreds of our alumni in different places, and they're consistently celebrating different successes. We've had, I think, 25 graduates come to the U.S. universities and colleges from full scholarships. We've had youth elected to parliament after several years. I mentioned some of the professions that they're in. This is Claude Mbui, who was asked to represent the DRC at the UN in New York on a panel. And so we're very proud of the different things that our alumni can do, whether it's big or small, and our alumni groups have become a really critical part of our work. And finally, this is a quote from a graduate, just speaking to, I think, the nature of the work and how important it is. For me, it's interesting to read the way that people think about and talk about CLI. It's much like we would think about an alma mater, a connection to a group of people that they would not have had otherwise. we have never, in all of our time, had any trouble finding enough young people to come to a program. And to be clear, this is extra training, extra homework, in addition to what they have to do for school on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. I think that's very hard to wrap our minds around here in the US, but my explanation for it has always been that even for youth who can go to school, and it costs money to go to high school, there's no band, there's no sports, there's no extracurricular activities, and so having some other type of organization or project to pour energy into is something that young people need and very much like. So to me, I think that was critical. One thing I want to touch on, again, because I was asked to do this as well, is if you are following the news, and sometimes it makes the news in the US, not usually, it's been a very difficult time in 2025 in the DRC, particularly in the eastern part of the country. There's been a rebel insurgency, which has more or less controlled a large portion of the territory of the DRC. This has been an ongoing conflict for several decades. It's a derivative of the Rwandan genocide, actually, and probably even before that in the 90s. So this is a situation where there's a semi-governmental group that is administering a territory. All of that means for us is that we have 8 of our 20 sites in a place where I'm not exactly sure what country it's in. And it's a difficult way to do our work. We're very grateful for our local partners and their advice so that we can continue our program. So far it's been safe. Obviously I'll continue to keep everyone here updated on the situation, but it seems to be in a more stable place than it was several months ago, and we're very proud to continue offering the program. I think that exiting in difficult circumstances like this is what too many groups end up doing, and that's not what we're interested in. To close, I put together what I'm calling 3 semi-spiritual lessons. I think this is useful for young people, although I will say they have these activity bags that they give you now, which I never had when I was a kid, so I don't know how many of you are really paying attention. It seems much better than when I went to church. Hopefully helpful for older people, and then if you're somewhere in between, like me, I think useful things to think about as well. The first is you're probably more afraid than you should be. And I think much of the fear that you might experience is due to the potential of something being new versus anything tangible. I went to Congo because I thought it would be fun, and I didn't think of a good reason not to, and it turns out I was right. So if you are on balance going to flip a coin between trying to do something and not trying to do something, you probably should more often than not. I'd say it can burn you. It definitely does. But if you add it up over dozens or hundreds of iterations, you end up in a better place by doing things, and I can certainly recommend that. The second, and this is very important, is if you're trying to do something inspiring or meaningful, you're usually not going to feel inspired. I think that there's this idea that you find something that you're very passionate about, and every day you wake up and you're excited to go to work and you love the things that you do. I mostly send money via wire transfer and fill out tax forms. That's like the biggest part of my job. It's not tremendously inspirational work. It's not fun. It's not something that I enjoy doing. There's been probably 3, maybe 4 times in 15 years that I felt genuinely inspired, but that's not why you do it. It's not about you. It's not about your own inspiration. And I think that the ability to do work that is soul-destroying is where really great things get done. I'd recommend getting comfortable with it if you'd like to start something that's bigger than you. That's something that I learned the hard way. And finally, and I think this is really critical as well, maybe the most important, is that you will never get anything done if you're worried about the magnitude of everything you're trying to accomplish at the beginning. If you had told me when I was 20 all of the different things that I would have to do over the next 15 years, I never would have started CLI. I thought it was going to be a 5-day program. That was all that I put together. And it took on a life of its own and continued. The example that I gave at the 8:30 service, which I think is a good one, is I have a nephew. He is learning how to talk. It would be very counterproductive to explain to him all of the difficult conversations he's going to have over the next 90 years. I think he would probably choose to not talk. That would be his option there. But if he did that, he would be robbed of a lot of fulfilling elements of life. So I think that it's useful to focus on one problem at a time. It's useful to think about what you need to do today. And if you're always looking to be inspired by the bigger picture, you're probably going to be disappointed. So with that, I really want to thank you for inviting me back. OPPC is our longest standing donor, a big supporter of what we do, and we couldn't do it without you. So happy to maintain this connection with the work that we do in Congo, and look forward to meeting many of you after the service. Thank you.